Welcome to Take on Tech. We are your number one tech show, and today is no exception. We have a very interesting show just for you. We'll be talking about digital resilience later on in Tech Talk. But before that, we have tech news, tech of the week, and so much more for you. So you are rightly tuned in. The hashtag is Take on Tech at KBC Channel 1. My name is Stephanie Ayieta. In tech news, Kenya has launched the QR code standard 2023 set to boost the digital payments and increase interoperability between different payment service providers. And internationally, ex-Uber Chief Security Operating Officer has been sentenced to 3 years probation for covering up a cyber attack on the company. This and more details in our tech news roundup. Central Bank of Kenya, in partnership with multiple key players in the payments industry in the country, have launched the Kenya Quick Response Code Standard 2023. The main purpose of the QR code is to increase synergy among different payment service providers. Central Bank of Kenya has partnered with Safaricom, Equity Bank, Absa, KCB, Cooperative Bank, Visa, MasterCard, Pesapal, and FSD Kenya. The QR code standard is issued by the Central Bank of Kenya, and future partners can reach out to the Director, Banking and Payment Service Department, CBK. The QR code is universal and can be scanned by the respective apps, including the M-Pesa app and the apps from the banks such as Equity Bank and KCB. Merchants will have one QR code that works with the respective apps. The code will contain the merchant's information such as business name, unique identifiers for the merchant's payment service providers, transaction currency, and amount. Central Bank of Kenya says that this will also help collect additional data for future analysis and decision-making purposes. Clear data handling policies will be implemented to protect customer privacy by not exchanging information such as phone numbers, identity, and email addresses. The launch of the Kenya QR Code Standard 2023 is one of the many initiatives by the Central Bank of Kenya under its National Payment Strategy 2022-2025 to bring fast, secure, efficient, and collaborative payment systems that support financial inclusion and innovations to benefit Kenyans. The universal QR code now brings convenience, choice, security, and interoperability among the payments institutions. Uber's former chief security officer has avoided jail and been sentenced to 3 years probation for covering up a cyber attack from authorities. Joseph Sullivan was found guilty of paying hackers $100,000 after they gained access to 57 million records of Uber customers, including names and phone numbers. In November 2016, the attackers who targeted Uber emailed Sullivan and told him they had stolen a large amount of data which they will delete in return for a ransom, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Staff working for Sullivan confirmed data, including records of 57 million Uber users and 600,000 driving licenses numbers, had been stolen. According to the Department of Justice, Sullivan arranged for the hackers to be paid $100,000 in exchange for them signing non-disclosure agreements to not reveal the hack to anyone. The hackers were paid in December 2016, disguised as a bug bounty, a reward used to pay cybersecurity researchers who disclose vulnerabilities so that they can be fixed. The hackers subsequently faced conspiracy charges in 2019 and pleaded guilty. The former chief security officer must also pay a fine of $50,000 and serve 200 hours of community service. In Tech of the Week, we have an agri-tech feature for you where fruit producers are turning to nets for better production. They're experimenting on nets to keep off insects, but at the same time not shut out pollinators such as bees. Let's check it out. Nets are a simple solution to an age-old problem to protect crops from hazards by keeping them covered. Professor On explains that initially, fruit producers placed nets over trees primarily to protect them from hail damage. Now, they're experimenting with nets that can protect against insects. The mesh size of insect-proof nets is determined by local conditions, including the nature of insects. That could shut out the insects that farmers really do want, mostly pollinators. One option, therefore, is to apply the nets after the pollination period. Another is to open the nets during the day while bringing in beehives. Nets are also seen as a way of tackling the effects of climate change. Warmer conditions have seen the resurgence of some types of insects and diseases. Some regions are seeing more intense periods of drought and heavy rain, and nets can help with that. For instance, depending on the location, the type of net, and the way it's used, its netting system can shield against the solar radiation that leads to heat stress and inhibits trees' photosynthesis. But the introduction of a net could mean a more humid environment around the tree, not helpful for crops prone to fungal diseases in wetter climates like the northeastern US and Canada. But some researchers are working on hydrophobic nets, where a treatment using a botanical pesticide essentially makes the nets water repellent. Nets are not always the answer. They may not be appropriate for smaller, varied orchards, nor are they necessary for all climate conditions. Also, the nets used for fruit trees are typically made of polyethylene, which isn't ideal for our world attempting to move away from plastic dependence. One of the companies working on non-plastic nets is Texinov, a French technical textile firm. Texinov is researching various types of biodegradable nets, such as ones made from flax. It has already introduced a biodegradable net made out of polylactic acid, which is produced from fermented corn. Industrial composting is needed to break down this type of net, which sales manager Adrienne Etienne says is about 10% more expensive than a conventional net. Technological refinements and communication will be necessary to convince more fruit growers that netting would be useful. But Professor On believes as we move towards more climatic challenges and unpredictable weather, protective cultivation using nets is the way forward. It is now time for Tech Talk. We join Grace Githaiga and Mwendwa Kivuva, an ICT champion of KICTANet, talking to us about digital resilience. Let's listen in.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that introduction to the interview section of Take on Tech, in which we are discussing digital resilience. Now, what is digital resilience? If you remember, during COVID, many organizations and many people were caught unawares, and we expected to just take a break for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then this break continued for a full year. It went on to the following year. Now, how did people survive? We saw that a lot of people came online. Schools had to adapt and start using online platforms to teach, and many other people started conducting businesses online. And that's what we are talking about. How did people survive? Were they resilient? And if they were resilient, how did the digital platforms help them? So that is the point of our conversation today with Mwendwa Kivuva, who is an ICT champion from KICTANet.
My name is Mwendwa Kivuva from KICTANet, and I am an ICT champion. Digital resilience is the ability for an organization to be able to sail through any disruptions that they may face. And after facing the disruptions and overcoming them, the strategies they put in place so that they can continue being an ongoing concern or an organization that is stable. A good example of why digital resilience is important is if in your organization people came and stole all your servers, or your building collapses with all your IT equipment and they all get destroyed, will your company still continue running? If you have records for your customers, funds and all that on your systems, will you be able to recover that data? Do you have a backup mechanism? Do you have a failover system or some computer somewhere else where you can change constantly and use that system. And a good example we try to give when we are explaining why digital resilience is during COVID, when governments closed down businesses. They told people to stay at home. If your business was told to close and stay at home, will it still continue operating? And there are businesses which actually did that. For example, if you had a shop in town, a stall, you could open an online shop, or you could look for an online shop that exists and start selling your wares online. Other people took their wares on social media. So you can scroll on people's status and you see they are selling 1, 2, 3 things. Before COVID, those things were not very common. So that is why digital resilience is important. How you are able to take the challenges you are facing and face it head on and look for solutions that will make you even better after that. How many organizations handle maybe the COVID pandemic is when offices were closed, staff were given resources like laptops, and they were given internet at home, and they could be able to work at home and have meetings through online meeting platforms. So you hear somebody is at home and is having a meeting with somebody else in different homes. So all of them could be able to meet on different meeting platforms. There are actually very many. And business could still continue even if people are working at home. Initially, if you said your business is a work at home business and we are always staying at home doing work, people could not understand what that means. But after COVID, work at home is normal and people see that as legitimate business. So that is a way of resilience, being resilient in times of change. Tatua Digital Resilience Center is a center that is there to support social justice organizations or human rights defenders within East Africa. This center is spearheaded by KICTANet, but also with support from Africa Internet Rights Alliance members, which are a conglomerate of organizations within East Africa that are on the digital space. These organizations are CIPESA from Uganda, Policy from Uganda, Tanzania Human Rights Defenders from Tanzania, Center for Intellectual Property Rights and IP Law, CIPIT from Strathmore University, and Article 19 Eastern African Office. So these organizations form the Tatua Digital Resilience Center. And the purpose of the center is to offer digital resilience services, advisory services, training, capacity building, tools and resources for organizations in East Africa, especially social justice organizations and more so human rights defenders, on how they can be digitally resilient. You can take any sample organization. You find organizations, social justice organizations probably have a board, and then after the board there is leadership, and then there is staff, and then they are fighting for a cause. It can be a cause on democracy, online gender-based violence, women's rights, gender rights, children's rights, nutrition or health. Whatever issue they work with, they usually have a leadership structure. And within those organizations, they have services they are providing, and they have tools within the organization. Tools can be laptops, softwares, and things like that. And they have human resource. The human resource can be either trained or not trained. So we look at these organizations from the board level, and we ask ourselves, is the board of this organization and the leadership aware of any training that they need to give their staff so that they can know the tools and resources they need to use within the organizations? Is the leadership aware of what type of financial resources they need to put in place in the organization to provide the tools, services, softwares, and also capacity building and training for their staff? Is the board even aware? Because if the board is not even aware and they are not able to set up resources to be able to support their organization within, then the organization will be digitally malnutritioned, because it will not have enough resources within itself to be able to serve the cause that it is fighting for. And the causes, we have said, they can be many. So one of the services we will be offering is training board and the leadership on the need to properly resource the organizations, and also why they need to do that, what software they need to implement within the organization, what hardware they can use, and if they are hosting things on site, can they find ways of hosting their systems maybe on a cloud platform, which probably will be either secure or it can even be cheaper than hosting for yourself if you are a smaller organization. Software. If there is software you're using within the organization, are you using legitimate software? What is your source of software? You find that from research, credible research that even us we have done, is that many organizations use pirated software, cracked software, software which has malicious code. Malicious actors have injected code within them. You download this software within your organization, you install for your staff, or the staff install and share within each other. Then you make your organization vulnerable. And why is this so? Is because there is no funding resources or even the knowledge, the awareness that you need to invest on these systems as an organization to prevent even staff bringing malicious software within the organization. So those are some of the services we are offering. Apart from that, we will also be looking at big picture issues, on issues that are emerging issues within the region, on tech society, and an example will be fake news, privacy and misinformation and disinformation. Why, when you get that image, for example, on your social media platform, you don't need to forward it to another person. So those are just sensitizing the public on emerging issues. And those issues are many. So privacy has been a big issue lately. But of course, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and fake news is a big thing, because you see something about a certain politician and you start forwarding and you don't know the credibility of that information. So how are you able to fact find and ascertain if the information you are sharing is legitimate? Other issues we will be dealing with is how human rights defenders can stay safe online. You find there are human rights defenders who are doing critical work, and they are doing some critical communication. Probably they are communicating on plain text, plain SMS. They are making calls on plain airwaves, so they can be eavesdropped. The information can be read by adversaries. How are they able to protect themselves and secure their communication, for example? So that's just an example. The websites they are visiting, can they be tracked? Are there things they can do within their computer ecosystem so that they are not tracked? Like, for example, using virtual private networks within their computers to hide their locations and their identity and things like that. So, as we say, mambo ni mengi. The information is so much, and to give it in a short time.
Take on Tech takes a short break. In today's interview section, we are talking about digital resilience. Please continue following us on our social media handles, and that's at KBC Channel 1 across all social media handles. Keep watching.
Just closing is that the services that the Tatua Digital Resilience Center is offering to social justice organizations and human rights defenders within East Africa are things like capacity building from the top down in any organization, and also provide policies and strategies that these organizations can be able to deploy within their organization. So we'll have templates and best practice policies and strategies that this organization can be able to deploy within the organization, and we'll put them on a public portal, tatua.digital, www.tatua.digital. And we'll also do assessments and audits of the organizations. So we usually say that each organization is doing financial audit for their companies every year, but do they do digital audits or IT audits within the organization? And you remember, even when they're doing the financial audit, that's finances, funds, and all that are on those digital systems. So you are doing financial audit, but your systems are not secure. So you can even lose all the funding because you don't do that. So we also be providing financial assessments and audits for these organizations within East Africa. Apart from that, we'll also be doing incident and emergency response services. This is like an ambulance service. So if within your organization you have been affected on any IT cyber related incident and you need help, where do you go to? So you come to us. And we have different communication channels. One of them is support@Tatua Digital. You write an email to us at support@tatua.digital. And also you can do a call to us at 0110 730 730 if you're in Kenya. If you're in Tanzania or Uganda, you will contact CPESA. Or in Tanzania, you will contact Tanzania Human Rights Defenders Coalition for that service. But if you go directly to and write an email to us at support@tatua.digital, or you go to our website www.tatua.digital, you will see how to contact and get this support. And of course, apart from that, we'll also be doing monitoring of emerging issues and also advocacy campaigns within the region, so that organizations are aware of these issues and why they are important for those organizations to go to the next stage of their maturity model.
That's it from our interview section of Take on Tech, in which we were discussing about being digitally resilient, both for organizations and even individuals. In the interview, we had Mwendwa Kivuva. And until next time, my name is Grace Githaiga. Please continue following us on our social media handles and keep watching KBC.
It's now time for the Innovators Club, and here, as you know, we challenge you to try something new. For today, we have a special DIY hack for you that you can try at home with minimal resources. Try it out, then tell us how it goes. Let's check it out. question of the day, we are asking you, how can we improve our digital resilience? Talk to us. The hashtag is TakeATech at KBC Channel 1. It is now time to draw the curtains on today's show. But remember the question that we have asked you on our social media handles, which is, how can we improve our digital resilience? Talk to us at KBC Channel 1 using the hashtag TakeOnTech. My name is Stephanie Ayieta, and that's also where you can find me on social media. Let's meet next week, same time, same place. Until then, let's keep it tech. Adios.
Thank you.